Hi guys, my name is Daisy Riri and I'm a self-proclaimed beta entrepreneur. Why beta? Because starting in business in Kenya is extremely hard and running it even harder and growing it chest pains too, chest pains. So I am the co-founder of Kenya Limited, a footwear retailer based in Nairobi and also a manufacturer. I have got to work with amazing people like Jane Botte. If you've never heard of her, find out. She's a shoe designer. Find out today. So I get asked a lot about how I started my business, right? And for me, starting Kenya was mostly personal, and then it grew into what it has become over the years, and it has been quite interesting. And today, I would like to share with you some of my lessons, things that say like when you're starting your business, this is how you survive this environment. It's extremely hard, but this is how you do it. Number one, pick an industry. Over the years, I've learned that every industry has challenges. Hakuna industry ina mashida ziko kutoka hapa to Timbuktu. So pick an industry and focus. So when you get into an industry, you don't know what their challenges are. And I'm assuming today I'm only talking to entrepreneurs because I'm a beta one. Please don't be if you follow some of the things I avoided with. So every industry has its own challenges. I'll give you something that's close to my heart. Vakenya is a footwear, is in the footwear space. Someone would think that footwear's problems have been solved, like the world is perfect because we have so many shoe brands. But you'll be shocked that we do not have standard African shoe sizes. And what does that create? Because shoes that have not been made for Africans and for Africa, it has created this entire pool of people without clear shoe sizes. That's a whole market you could explore. And by clear foot sizes, what do I mean? I mean it could be a big foot, tiny foot, one big foot, one small foot. There are so many challenges in the industry, and Kenya is positioning itself to help solve these problems. We even have this ambitious mission saying we're going to dignify African feet. And can you really put a price on dignity? What does it really mean to dignify something? That is one of the few things that Kenya is trying to work to center its entire philosophy, its entire policy, and its entire products on dignifying African feet, because it's about damn time. So, any industry you go into, you find challenges. There's another brand that is in Singapore that they are solving the Asian sizes problem. They are called, God, I'll have to check it out and I'll put it down here. It's one of my favorite brands. How can I forget their name right now? Jesus. So this is what they did. They based the entire business model on solving the problem of doing finer cuts for women for Asian women. Because Asian women are kind of petite, so they don't fit into the European sizes. Every time because they're so tiny, they keep having to go back to the tailor to resize their clothes. So the only thing this brand did was ensure that they were only making finer cuts for Asian women, and that's a whole market. See? Who'd have thought that apparently there's a whole population of women out there who have been struggling and having to resize their clothes over and over again over the years. And that's the only problem they're solving. So my point is, ensure you get into any industry and figure out what were their challenges. Number 2, do not start a business alone. It is hard. Wow. Let me not lie to you. It is so hard. It has been so hard. And I have 2 partners. I have 2 business partners, and still things are hard. So yapo peke yako utakuna lilia nani. Do not be the person that just lilia peke yako. It gets harder and harder and harder and harder every day. So what do if you're a smart person? Start with partners. Partners help you get through the hard parts. The parts that you could not get through alone. And so the reason for having business partners is this. It is extremely important for this to make sure you have business partners that they are the polar opposite of who you are as a person. You see, like personally, I am, I am a chronic case of, I'm not going to say lazy, but that's where I run the entire thing. I don't like doing hard stuff. It's funny, I'm an entrepreneur. And by me, my hard stuff is I am more like a thinker a strategist, and that's where most of my strengths are. And it will be easier for me to take up a position of leadership in strategy, or a position of leadership in delivering products and delivering things directly to people. Like you see, if I'm a manager, I would absolutely suck at it. Because if as a manager, I have to be following some things. I am not so key in details. And this is the best part. Jerry is exactly the opposite of that. She is so detail-centered. So she is even one of the people I call micromanagers, and she's so good at it. She's not micromanaging you all the time, but sometimes there are things she's strict on. Mimi naweza how to was strict. You see, and that's how we end up balancing each other. Njeri is a deliver. She knows how to deliver. There's nothing she cannot deliver, and I'm the opposite. I get tired with projects. Like, I start with enthusiasm, and then I have figured out how the strategy looks like. I've figured out the results you're looking for. I have figured out the outcome, and I am so tired with that entire project. It's so big exciting for me. But certain areas been holding us and ensuring we keep going. We keep going to the end. And I've realized alone, meaning get failed. And then we go to another business partner. And that is also a whole other person with a different perspective. This is someone who is just thinking about the big picture. How can you take the brand to the next level? They're thinking about the things me and Jerry have to deal with on the everyday. And that is extremely important. Another thing, when you're doing for partners, make sure you have a board. A board guides you. And one of your board, make sure you have an advisor. So in our team, we have SK. He's our advisor who gives us perspective you've been missing in the entire thing. So in our leadership, the leadership must be solid. And having partners is one way of ensuring the leadership is solid. And partners are cheap. Partners are cheap because they don't necessarily depend on salary. They depend on profit. So on the years you don't make profits, partners don't get paid. It's that simple. So if they, like this year we have not made sales or anything, I don't think any of us are expecting to get paid at the end of the year. You see, simple maths. 2020 has been hard on everyone. The next thing, work with minimum capital in the beginning. And that's important. Do not raise capital in the beginning. Please, I'm begging you. In the beginning, you don't even need capital. So if you raise capital in the beginning, you're going to be the kind of entrepreneur that solves all their problems with capital. And that's not great. You'll start creating a company that is not capital efficient. And if investors on board because the idea is good, they're going to start pulling out in a few years. And you don't want your investors dumping because, if, for example, let's say you have listed in NSE, or you have given out your first IPO, right? Okay, if you don't know the meaning of IPO, it means initial public offer. Every company is to get, most companies' goal is to get there, to give out stocks and be listed because it's another way of raising capital. So the idea is to ensure that when you're going to try to do your IPO, your first investors are not trying to pull out because your company is not capital efficient. Your investor needs to be holding on to it to increase the prices of what? Your shares. So at the end of the day, that should be how it goes. So ensure your company is capital efficient. So in the beginning, work with minimum capital. If you can just be able to work with money you raise amongst yourself. Like if you raised, let's say, like we decided out to just mean Jerry, and our first capital raise was 100 Gs. It was from sales and from family and friends. So our first capital was only 100,000. It is money we could lose. It was easy. It gave us space to experiment, to fail, to do all these things, to start, take it. In the beginning, that was totally okay. And then after we had figured out our why, because in the beginning you don't know necessarily your why, even if you have a great app, you have to adjust it to fit the market. So when we got our why and got our market fit, we went and got our first partner, who is now Anthony. That did not bring a lot of money either. We left a lot of money on the table and took less money because of that specific reason. He was not coming on board with a little money, but he was coming on board with expertise, and he was also coming on board with just a little bit of money we needed to get us through the year. Now, Kenya is going to start raising capital next year. Or the year after that. Either next year or the year after that. We're supposed to, if 2020 would have gone well, we'd have raised capital in 2021. But 2020 has not gone so well for us. So the next time we might raise capital will be what? 2022. And when we started raising capital in 2022, it means now our brand is ready to what? To go and raise capital from VC, venture capitalist, private equity, that kind of thinking. So the next time we're going to raise capital is actually because right now we already have our systems. Our prices are set. Our market is known. We know who our Jane is and our John is by the T. We can describe him or her. You see? And him or her loves our product. So you have a product with a market fit and you're building a brand. So that is a win-win for you. That is how you navigate it. Okay, when you're hiring, the next part is about usually when entrepreneurs starting out, hiring is hard. So hire attitude. Stay away from hiring talent. Higher what? Attitude. Skills can be trained. Skills can be what? What do you mean by attitude? If I needed some engineers, 2 engineers here. One is super talented, but they do not have the kind of attitude is needed in a company, and the other one is not that talented. We can always retrain this person that is super talented and someone willing to work with you and whatnot. So ensure when you're hiring, especially in the beginning, your first 100 employees. And I'm saying your first 100 employees should be people with that attitude, because these are the setters of the company culture. These are people who are going to be the setters of the future. Whatever these first 100 people create is what's going to be known as your company policy, your company setup, your company culture, and all that. So you should hire the kind of right people. So another option, if you're not trying to build a brand, because not every business needs to build a brand. Like let's say, for example, Gilani's. If you don't know about Gilani's, it's in Nakuru. It's a supermarket which is very, very successful. I also like their model. Gilani's have a very, very simple model whereby they only hire from 4 leavers, and they do not hire with benefits or anything. Then it's a cheap model whereby umaliza form 4, hauna skills, unaweza kuingia uni ama kole. Kuja fanya kazi Gilani's is sort of kulala nyumbani. They will pay you less than 10K. I kid you not. You're going to work from 8 to 8 p.m. every day. But that's not the thing about it. They do not mind the constant hiring and firing. And number 2, they're not looking for skilled people. You see, so that model also works for them because it makes them also capital efficient. Because remember here, one of the most important things is being capital efficient. So depending on what your business needs, ensure you are not spending a lot of money on salaries. You're not spending a lot of money on your fixed costs. You're not spending a lot of money on such things. Find a way of reducing such costs. Naongea vitu mingi sana. Wow. Nasema matam sort a few years ago. Another thing, if you're an entrepreneur, when you're building your business, build a brand. The brand is the identity that your customers, your clients, your partners are going to interact with. And then there is now the business, right? The business part is very boring. It's strategies, there is nini, there is the back end that makes the brand look great. So build them concurrently. It's hard because you're trying to firefight here and get the business out of the ground. And there's this other idea of a brand and whatnot. It's a whole thing. But if you can do them concurrently, it gets better with time. And with technology, tap into online resources. There's so many online resources that can help you build a brand online. And you can have a strong brand online. People will even assume you're bigger than the way you are. I think I need to do a video for that, on how to make people think you're bigger than you are because of how you're presenting yourself online. It's about, that's the entire marketing thing. People would have to know that you're working from where we used to work in Jerry Kitambo. Some of you didn't know we were in Jericho Market. Because of how we presented ourselves online. You see, right now we have, of course, grown and shared, but we started in Jericho Market. And if someone would come to our office and say, hapa ni va Kenya, because we're like a tiny, let's not go there. But build your presence online to give your brand identity and look good on people. Next thing, start small, think big. Nothing great started big. You start big, you're robbing yourself, and I go back to this again, room to make mistakes. You don't want that for yourself. And when you start big, it robs, unless you're an expert, unless this is like your second, third, fourth business. If it's your first business, it is important you start small. Because if it's your second business, you've gotten better. There are lessons like the one I'm giving you today, guys. Lessons from previous years and what. There are mistakes you will not make twice, right? So you can start big if it's your second, third business. If this is your first business, start small. Start with one product. Start with one prototype. Get a market fit for it. because it means it even gives you chance to bring about the aspect of what do you call it, of experimenting, because experiments might either fail or succeed. It gives your organization that room to dance around, experimenting, making mistakes, failing forward. The goal is to have one huge win in the end, right? So if you make small mistakes along the way, no problem. But if you start big and then you fail, it's gonna be a major fail. I'll give you a good example of companies that started small in Kenya, brands you all love. Taskies started small. So they kept improving their catalog. It gave them this space until they used to be called Tasker. They have evolved. They used to be called Tasker. They grew into, Tasker mattresses. They have grown over the years, changing their model, improving their presentation, improving how they're delivering services to people. They're called Taskies. Though I heard they have some financial problem, but they are going to overcome it. I believe in you, Taskins. Stay the course. We need more of you guys. But my point is, you see, that is how it goes. When you start small, believe me, if you meet even the founders, the people who started Taskins Kitambo, if you meet them and hear the stories of how they had a lot of room to make mistakes, a lot of room to experiment, they could be taking, as an example, it allows you, even when you're stocking, know how to stock, know how to do these small things you don't know. What are your consumers looking for? It gives you room to dance. So don't start a huge thing overnight. It might even intimidate you. And this is the funny thing. When you fail in a major thing, you become depressed. When you fail in a small thing, you wake up, dust yourself, and keep going. So the small successes and the small failures along the way are easier to handle than one major fail. Imagine if you sank 1 million Kenya shillings within 2 months or 3 months. Think about that. Are you going to just bounce back and say, that was just Kamani? You see, it's going to, first of all, it's going to give you some kind of shock along the way. But if you sank 100K even the same month, they're going to say, it's not really potea. We can always dust yourself and move on. But I'm not saying you start with 100K necessarily. You can even start with 10K, 2K. Our first investment was 3K. Sorry for another day. But that's how it goes, guys. I hope I've given you some perspective. And if you have questions, ask down there. Click and subscribe. Beta Entrepreneur in the damn house. Bye-bye.